The first night I noticed the car, I didn't think much about it. Looking back now, I really wish I had, because if I had paid attention earlier, I probably would have left that house immediately. This happened about 2 years ago, at the time. I had just moved into a small house on the edge of town. It was a quiet neighborhood, not many houses. No apartment buildings. Just a long street with trees and a few homes spread out between them. The kind of place where almost everyone knows each other. But I didn't know anyone. Yet, I had only been living there for about 3 weeks, and most nights, the street was completely empty. No traffic. No people walking, just silence, which is why I noticed the car. It was around 11:30 at night. I was sitting on my couch, watching TV. The living room window faces the street. When I stood up to grab a drink from the kitchen, I happened to glance outside. There was a car parked directly across from my house. It was a dark sedan. Maybe black, maybe dark blue. It was hard to tell in the streetlight. The engine was running. I could see a little smoke coming from the exhaust, but the headlights were off. At first, I assumed it was just someone checking their phone or waiting for someone. People do that sometimes. So I didn't think about it. I grabbed my drink and went back to the couch. About 20 minutes later, I looked outside again. The car was still there. Same spot. Engine still running. Headlights still off. That was the first moment something felt slightly strange. But again, I brushed it off. Maybe they were waiting for someone in one of the nearby houses. Eventually I went to bed, and sometime during the night, the car left. At least, I assumed it did. The next day, everything felt normal. I went to work. Came home. Made dinner. Watched some YouTube. Nothing unusual. But the second night, the car came back, and this time I noticed it immediately, because it parked in the exact same place. Right across from my house. Same dark sedan. Same position. And again, the engine was running. I remember standing by the window for a few seconds. Just watching it, trying to see inside. But the windshield reflected the streetlight. So I couldn't see the driver. All I saw was darkness. That's when I told myself something simple. Probably someone visiting a neighbor. That explanation made sense. At least at the time. So again, I ignored it. But then something strange happened. Around midnight, I went into the kitchen to throw something away. The kitchen window also faces the street. When I looked outside, the car was still there. But now something was different. The driver's side window was rolled down. Just a little. And for a brief second, I thought I saw movement inside the car, like someone shifting in their seat. I leaned closer to the glass, trying to see better, but then something happened that made my stomach tighten. Inside the car, something moved, and I realized the driver was looking directly at my house. Not at their phone, not down the street. At my house. At my window. At me. I stepped back from the window. Immediately. It was a weird feeling, like that sudden moment when you realize someone has been watching you. I told myself I was overthinking it, but I still closed the kitchen blinds. Just in case. That night I kept thinking about the car, not because it did anything, but because it didn't dot, it just sat there, silent, like it was waiting, eventually. I went to bed, and the next morning, the car was gone again. For a couple days, nothing happened, no car, no strange activity, and slowly, I stopped thinking about it, until Friday night. That was the night things started to feel wrong. I remember the time clearly, 11:47 p.m., because I had just paused a video on my TV. I stood up to stretch and looked out the living room window, and there it was again, same car, same spot, engine running, lights off, at that point it stopped feeling like coincidence. 3 nights, same place, same time. I stood there longer this time, watching the car, trying to see inside, but the windows were dark, almost tinted. Then something happened that made my stomach drop. Inside the car, a small light appeared, like the glow of a phone screen, and for just a moment, the inside of the car lit up enough for me to see the driver. It was a man, middle-aged, maybe late 40s. He was holding a phone, but he wasn't looking at it. He was holding it up, pointing it toward my house, toward my window. At first I thought maybe he was texting, but then the light shifted slightly, and I realized something. The phone wasn't pointed randomly. It was pointed directly at my house, like he was recording something. Or taking pictures. That was the first moment I felt real fear, because suddenly a thought hit me. What if he wasn't waiting for someone? What if he was there for me? I stepped away from the window again. My heart was beating faster now. I told myself there was probably a logical explanation, but something about the situation felt wrong. Really wrong. So I did something I hadn't done before. I turned off the living room lights. The house went dark. Then I slowly moved back toward the window. Carefully, quietly, and peeked outside again. The car was still there. The man was still inside, but now his phone wasn't in his hand anymore, and even though the street was dark, I could clearly see something else. The driver's door had opened slightly. And the man was stepping out of the car. Slowly. And he was looking directly at my house, directly at my front door, and that's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. He wasn't just looking at the house. He was looking at something in his hand, a small piece of paper. And even from across the street, I could see writing on it. Then the man looked back up at my house, looked directly at my front door. And started walking toward it. For a few seconds, I just stood there. Frozen. Watching him walk across the street. My brain was trying to come up with a logical explanation. Maybe he had the wrong address. Maybe he was looking for someone, but something about the way he moved didn't feel normal. He walked slowly. Not confused. Not hesitant. Like he knew exactly where he was going. Straight toward my house, toward my front door. My heart started pounding. I stepped away from the window. The living room was completely dark now. The only light came from the street lamp outside. I remember standing in the middle of the room, Listening. His footsteps were faint, gravel shifting slightly as he crossed my driveway. Then silence. He had reached the front door. For a moment, nothing happened. No knocking. No doorbell. Just quiet. And that was somehow worse. I moved a little closer to the front hallway, trying to hear something. Anything. Then I heard it. A soft, metallic sound. The door handle. Someone was slowly trying to turn it. My stomach dropped instantly. Because that meant one thing. He wasn't trying to knock. He was trying to open the door. Thankfully, it was locked. The handle stopped turning. But a second later, he tried again. Slowly. Carefully. Like he didn't want to make noise. I backed away from the hallway. My mind was racing now. Call the police. That was the obvious thing to do. But for some reason, I didn't move yet. I think part of me still believed there had to be some explanation. Then something else happened. The handle stopped moving. Silence. Again. I waited. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Nothing. For a moment I thought maybe he had left. But then a shadow moved across the small glass panel next to the door. He was still there, standing right outside. And then I heard something that made my skin crawl. 3 slow knocks. Not loud. Just knock. 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 It didn't sound like someone asking to come in. It sounded like someone confirming I was inside. I didn't answer. I didn't move. The house was completely dark. Maybe he would think no one was home. Seconds passed. Then a minute. Finally, I heard footsteps again. Slow ones. Moving away from the door. Gravel again. Then silence. After another minute, I slowly walked back toward the window. Carefully. Keeping low. When I peeked outside, the man was back in his car. The driver's door closed. The engine was still running, but he didn't drive away. He just sat there. Facing my house. That's when my phone buzzed in my hand. I hadn't even realized I was holding it. For a second I thought it might be the police, but I hadn't called them. It was a notification from an unknown number. A text message. My chest tightened as I opened it. The message was only 3 words. Nice house. I felt a cold wave run through my body. There was no way that was coincidence. No way. Someone had just tried to open my front door, and seconds later, I get a message from an unknown number. I slowly looked back toward the street. The car was still there. The man was still sitting inside. And suddenly, the thought hit me. What if the message came from him? My hands were shaking now. I typed a reply, just one word. Who is this? I waited. 10 seconds passed. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message. I liked the lights off. My heart started pounding harder, because that meant something very clear. He knew I had turned them off, which meant he had seen me do it. I looked up again. The car hadn't moved, but I could feel it now, that horrible feeling, like someone was staring directly at you. I stepped away from the window immediately. My breathing was getting faster. This wasn't just someone parking outside anymore. This was someone watching me, studying me, and somehow he had my phone number. I tried to think. Had I given my number to any neighbors? No. Had I posted anything online with my address? Not that I knew of. None of it made sense. Then another message appeared. This one made my stomach twist. Don't worry, I'm patient. I stopped breathing for a moment. Patient? What did that mean? Waiting for what? I walked quietly toward the hallway again. Part of me wanted to check the door, just to make sure it was really locked. But another part of me didn't want to get close to it, in case he was still outside, watching. After a minute, I forced myself to move, approached the door slowly. Every step felt louder than it should have. When I reached the lock, I checked it. Still locked, but then I noticed something strange, something I was sure hadn't been there before. On the floor, right outside the door, a small white object. I leaned closer to the glass panel to see it better. It was a piece of paper, the same kind the man had been holding. Earlier, the paper was folded once, and pushed halfway. Under the door, my stomach tightened again. That meant one thing. While he was standing outside, he had slid it under the door. I hesitated for a moment, then slowly bent down and picked it up, My hands felt cold as I unfolded it. It was writing on the paper. Only one sentence, printed neatly in black ink. I know your routine. My heart was racing now, because suddenly, every small thing from the past few weeks started running through my head. The same car driving past the street sometimes. The feeling of being watched. When I got home from work, the moment 2 days earlier, when I thought someone was standing near the trees across the road, At the time, I ignored all of it. But now, it started to make sense. Someone had been watching me for a while, maybe longer than I realized. My phone buzzed again. Another message. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before opening it. Then I felt the blood drain from my face. The message said, I know when you leave for work. I know when you come back. And I know when you're alone. I slowly looked back toward the street. The car was still there, but now something was different. The driver's door opened again. The man stepped out, and this time, he started walking toward the house again. But not toward the front door, toward the side of the house, toward the dark path that leads to my backyard. And that's when I realized something terrifying. My back door was unlocked. Asterisk. The moment I realized the back door was unlocked, my entire body went cold. I had used that door earlier that evening. I remembered it clearly. I had taken the trash out through the backyard. And when I came back inside, I was pretty sure I locked it. Pretty sure, but now, I wasn't so sure anymore, and the man outside was heading straight toward it. I moved quickly but quietly through the house. Every step felt heavy. Like the silence inside the house was too loud. Reached the hallway that leads to the kitchen. The back door was only a few feet away. I stopped before the corner. Listening. Outside. I could hear gravel shifting again. Slow footsteps. He was already in the backyard. My heart started pounding so hard. I was afraid he might hear it. I forced myself to move. Just a few more steps. When I finally looked at the door, my stomach dropped. The lock was turned the wrong way. Unlocked. For a moment, I just stared at it. My brain refusing to believe what I was seeing. Then I heard something outside, a faint creak. The wooden step outside the back door. He was right there. Just on the other side. Instinct took over. I rushed forward and quietly turned the lock. Clicked. The sound felt unbelievably loud. Froze immediately. Waiting. Listening. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the door handle moved. Slowly. Very slowly. Someone on the other side was trying it. But this time, it didn't open. The handle stopped. Silence. I stood there holding my breath. Seconds passed. Then a minute. Nothing. Had he heard the lock? Did he know I was inside? Then something worse happened. The handle moved again, but this time it turned harder, more forcefully, like he knew it should open, like he expected it to. My chest tightened, because that meant something terrifying. At some point before tonight, that door must have been unlocked, maybe more than once. Then the handle stopped moving. For a few seconds, everything was silent again, and I thought maybe he had given up. Maybe he was leaving. But then, a soft sound came from the door. 3 slow taps. Not knocking. Just tap. 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 My skin started to crawl, because it was the same rhythm as before. 3 taps, like some kind of signal, like he knew. I was standing right there, on the other side of the door. I slowly stepped away. My legs felt weak. I moved backward through the kitchen, my eyes never leaving the door. And then I heard something that made the situation even worse. Footsteps. But they weren't moving away from the house. They were moving along the back wall, toward the side of the house. Toward the front again. He was circling the house. My breathing became shallow. He was checking everything. The doors, the windows, looking for a way inside. I grabbed my phone and finally dialed the police. My hands were shaking as the phone rang. 1 ring. 2. 3. Then someone answered. I kept my voice low. I told them everything. The car. The man. The messages, the note. The doors. The operator told me officers were on the way, but it might take a few minutes. Those few minutes suddenly felt very long. While I was still on the phone, I heard something else. A sound from the living room. A faint creak, like weight on wood. My stomach twisted. The operator asked if I was still there. I whispered yes. Then I slowly moved toward the living room hallway. The house was still completely dark, only a faint glow from the street lights outside. I reached the corner of the hallway and listened. At first I heard nothing. Then another sound. The living room window. A slight scraping noise, like something touching the glass. My pulse started racing again, because I knew exactly which window that was. The big one facing the street. The one I had been looking out of earlier. The one without blinds. Slowly, carefully, I leaned just enough to see into the living room, and that's when my stomach dropped. The man was standing outside the window, only a few feet away. His face was partially lit by the streetlight. And he wasn't looking around. He was looking directly inside, directly into the house, like he knew exactly where I was standing. Then he lifted something in his hand. For a moment I didn't understand what it was, until the small red light turned on. A camera. He was filming the house, filming the inside, filming me. I quickly stepped back behind the wall. My heart felt like it was going to explode. The operator on the phone kept asking questions, but I barely heard them, because my brain was stuck on one terrifying thought. How long had he been doing this? How many nights had he sat in that car, watching the house, watching me, learning everything? Then my phone buzzed again. Another text message. I didn't want to open it, but I knew I had to. My hands trembled as I looked at the screen. The message said, "You forgot something tonight." My chest tightened. Forgot what? Before I could think about it further, Another message appeared. This one was worse, much worse. It said, "The kitchen light was on when you left for work this morning." My entire body froze, because that meant only one thing. He hadn't just been watching the house from outside. He had seen inside earlier during the day, when I wasn't home. And suddenly a memory came back to me from 2 weeks earlier. I had come home from work, and the kitchen light had been on. I was sure I had turned it off before leaving, but at the time, I convinced myself I had simply forgotten. Now my stomach twisted with a horrible realization. What if I hadn't forgotten? What if someone had been inside the house? My phone buzzed again. Another message. 3 words. "I miss inside." My chest tightened instantly. I looked slowly toward the hallway behind me, toward the rest of the house. The bedrooms, the closets, the attic. Every dark corner suddenly felt different. Unsafe. And that's when a new thought hit me. Thought so disturbing it made my hands shake. What if he hadn't just been watching my house? What if he had been inside it before? Then something happened outside that made everything worse. The man at the window slowly raised his hand and tapped on the glass. 3 times. Tap. Tap. Then he smiled and mouthed something through the window. 3 words. I could read them clearly. "I know you're home." When he mouthed those words, "I know you're home," something inside me finally snapped. Up until that moment I had been frozen. Confused. Trying to understand what was happening. But now there was no confusion left. This man wasn't just watching my house. He knew I was inside. He knew my routine. He knew my phone number. And somehow, he knew things about the inside of my home. The police operator was still on the line. Her voice sounded distant. "Now, she told me officers were close, just a few more minutes." But those minutes suddenly felt impossible, because the man outside the window wasn't leaving. He just stood there, smiling slightly, looking into the house. Then slowly, he lifted the camera again and pointed it directly at the window. At me. I stepped further back into the hallway. My mind racing. What if he tried to break the window? What if he forced his way inside before the police arrived? I needed to put distance between us. So I moved quietly toward the stairs. My bedroom was upstairs. At the time, it felt safer than the ground floor. More distance. More doors. As I climbed the stairs, I kept looking back toward the living room. The man hadn't moved. He was still standing outside the window. Watching. Filming. When I reached the top of the stairs, I closed my bedroom door, locked it. Then I turned off the last light in the hallway. The entire house was dark again. For a few seconds, I just stood there, breathing. Trying to calm down. The operator kept speaking softly on the phone. Asking if I could still see him. I told her, yes, outside the living room window. Still there, still watching. Then something strange happened. She asked me a question that confused me. Is there anyone else in the house with you? I frowned. No. Are you absolutely sure? The question made my chest tighten slightly. Yeah, I live alone. There was a pause on the line. Then she said something that made my stomach twist. The officers say the man outside your house is sitting inside his car. For a moment, I didn't understand what she meant. What? The patrol car just arrived at the end of your street. My heart skipped. They can see the vehicle you described. The man is inside the car. My mind went completely blank. Inside the car? But that was impossible. I had just seen him, seconds ago, standing outside the window, filming, watching me. I slowly turned my head toward the hallway, toward the stairs, toward the dark house behind me, and suddenly a horrifying thought began to form. What if the man at the window wasn't the man from the car? My breathing stopped, because if the man outside was still sitting in the car, then who was standing outside my window? Before I could think any further, I heard something downstairs, a sound that made every muscle in my body lock. The living room floor, a quiet creak. Not outside, inside the house. My entire body went cold, because I knew that sound. Wood floors in my living room always creaked like that, but only when someone stepped on them. The operator asked if I was still there. I couldn't speak. Another creak. Slow. Heavy. Someone walking through my living room. Inside my house. My hands started shaking uncontrollably, because suddenly everything made sense. The messages. Note: the unlocked door. The kitchen light. The text that said, "I miss inside." My throat felt dry. "Someone's in my house," I whispered. The operator's voice became urgent. "Officers are approaching your front door right now, but downstairs." The footsteps continued. Slow. Calm. Like the person wasn't afraid at all. Like they had been inside this house. Many times before, I backed further into my bedroom. My eyes locked on the door. Listening. Then something happened that made my heart nearly stop. The footsteps stopped directly below me, right under my bedroom. And for a few seconds, there was complete silence. Then my phone buzzed. Again. Another text message. My hands were shaking as I opened it. 3 words. "I'm upstairs." The blood drained from my face instantly, because there was only one way he could know that. He was inside the house. Right now, watching me. Then I heard it. The first step on the staircase. Creak. My heart felt like it was going to explode. Another step. Creak. Slow. Patient. Exactly like the messages said. He was coming upstairs. I looked around the room desperately. There was nowhere to go. Only one door, one small window, and then the sound that terrified me the most. 3 slow taps on my bedroom door. Tap. Tap. My entire body froze. The man on the other side of the door spoke softly. Almost like he was amused. "I told you." His voice was calm. Relaxed. Like we were having a normal conversation. "I'm patient." Tears filled my eyes. The police sirens finally appeared outside. Red and blue lights flashing through the window, but the man behind the door didn't move. He just stood there. Quiet. Then he said one last thing, something that still keeps me awake at night. "I've been inside this house longer than you have." And that's when I realized something. I should have noticed weeks earlier the attic door in the hallway had never actually been locked. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk.